that I have the main triangle, which consists of the head tube, top tube, down tube, and then of course the seat tube and bottom bracket. And it's all ready to go with the exception of just sanding it down, taking off all the dirt that has accumulated, any rust prior to welding. So let's go ahead and do that. What you want to do is take your sandpaper and abrade around all the joined areas just to make sure that there's no rust, oil, dirt, because that will contaminate your pool when you start welding, and get a nasty little I'll say it like a volcanic eruptions and spitting, and it will contaminate your tungsten and all that stuff. Okay, so make sure it's all clean. Use alcohol or acetone to complete the cleaning process. All right, let's go do that. So what I like to do is just put the tubing into a vise of some sort. You can use cloth or some rubber material to hold it. I don't really clamp it down to put any marking marks into the tubes. And then I just grab my emery cloth, sandpaper, and start working the edges around the tube. Just gently abrading. Let's lock this down so it doesn't spin around on me. Yeah, I'm going to do that on not all edges, like I said. And one thing I didn't bring up is I actually like to clean the inside a little bit, because I don't know if you can see that material sometimes starts to pull through your welds and can contaminate, especially if you go too deep in your weld. So I like to clean those up a little bit. Okay. Okay, on this one, I'm just showing a different technique here. I used a old inner tube from a bicycle and just wrapped the tube and then chucked it up in the vise. And now I'm going to go about cleaning each end. And I'm not going to show you doing it because it's the same thing over and over everywhere you go. But I will mention that you want to make sure that you come back and get the interface areas on your stationary parts, like the head tube and your seat tube and bottom bracket. Okay. Oh, good thing I did that. I don't have the vent holes in my bottom bracket, so I gotta remember to do that. It's the little things. Now, I didn't want to just take something for granted. Even though cleaning is really straightforward and easy, I better show it just so that you can see what I do. Now, I'm just going to take my tube. I have my acetone right here. I'm going to take a white gauze. You can use other types of material, but you'd like to have something that is pretty damn clean. And what I like about the white is you can see the material come off your tube, and then also you can see when it stops coming off, so then you know your tube is clean. So I'm just going to apply a little bit of acetone to the cloth and then just go around and start wiping. Now, I took some of that Scotch-Brite 80 grit and scuffed up the tubes to remove all the impurities and crap, and I wiped it with just a cloth, and oh, it's actually pretty clean. It's a pretty clean tube, at least on the outside. But here's the kicker, is what I like is that you can tell when it is clean and it's ready to go. Now, there's a little bit of dirt, not too bad, but if I then take the inside, you can see the dirt. And you might think, no big deal, right? It's on the inside. But, you know, if you don't have a really good fit up, the heat starts pulling some of the impurities from the edge over, and then you have problems with your welding. Now, the welds might actually look really good, but what you can see is some spitting, splattering, and that would be an indicator that you pulled some sort of oil or grease or some sort back up into the weld. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this for the rest of the tubes. You guys go ahead and do it yourself, and I'll meet you back at the jig for tacking up. All right. You know, I'm just fitting it up. I got my C-tube and I verified that it's all aligned and straight. Something that I haven't shared with you is I have a stainless steel brush that I have labeled for steel only. No aluminum, nothing. I only use it to clean when I weld steel tubes. Because believe it or not, brushes can carry contaminants over, and you might be using a brush that's not compatible or you used on aluminum, and now you have aluminum bits or whatever that you're embedding into the material, and when you start welding, I guarantee you will have a problem. So get yourself a dedicated brush that you will use only for steel, and more importantly, not just steel, but for your frame building, and that's all you use it for. Okay, so I'm not going to teach you how to weld. I just want to keep saying that over as I go through this, because that's a whole class in itself. And I think I did two straight weeks of full-time taking classes. Anyway, but I will tell you the order and technique for getting your tubes tacked in and welded. And so what I'm starting out with is my seat tube to bottom bracket. Okay, and what you're going to do is make sure that you have it securely clamped so there's enough push-up force to hold it in place. And I have this little doodad here that if I remove the tube, I can easily get it back and centered. But I have it all set in place now. But what you want to do is come in and you want to initiate your tack. You don't want to start welding, because I'll tell you right off, if you start just welding along that edge, it's going to cause that tube to kink to the side, and when you get your triangle all done, you're going to see that your seat tube doesn't line up with your head tube or between the chainstays, and when you put your back wheel on, you're going to see the tire come up off to one side or the other of the seat mast. So you're going to want to do one tack here, then flip it over, do a tack on the side, and then you'll do a light tack on each side, and then come back and either on the forward or back do quarter tack here, quarter tack there, and kind of like you're going about putting your tire or wheel on a car. You want to equally put tension on the tube so that the tube does not tend to pull off to the side. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do here in a minute. Yeah, I almost went ahead and started, but the other thing you want to make sure you do is you want to have some welding sleeves on. Something that's going to block the UV, because I will tell you, you will get a sunburn like you wouldn't believe once you start welding, and it's not fun, and it's high ultraviolet, so wear sunscreen, right? I joke about that, but I'm serious. You can get some serious sunburns, and if you do that long exposure over time, you know, cancer, you know, so let's use the right protection. All right, I'm just suiting up, getting my gloves. I even cleaned my filler rods too. Wiped them down with acetone before I got ready. So, I need my cheater glasses, got my gloves, got my mask. Alright, I'm all ready. So let's go and tack, initiate tack. Oh, and I run about 20 CFI on my argon when I do my welding for the most part. Sometimes I'll run higher if it's I have to extend my tungsten out quite a bit in the hard to reach places. So just as a reference. So that's one side. And that's the other side. Now I gotta take my mask off because, man, I got so much condensation built up I can barely see. And I actually dabbed my tungsten in there, which isn't good because now I gotta replace that tungsten already. If you can't see your weld, you can't weld. Alright, so make sure you have a clear view. Okay, I'm back. Fresh tungsten ready to go. And now what I'm going to do is just tilt the stand so I can get one side. And then I'll have to remove it from the jig in order to get the other side. Alright, and just there you go. Nice, sharp, clean. Alright. And that's the beauty of having a jig that rotates and moves about, is you can get the right angles. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this one side down. Well, that took a little longer to get it to join, and I think that was because I still couldn't quite see it that well, and therefore I was actually putting more heat into it than needed. Okay, so it is tacked in place. I just need to get the other side, so I'm going to remove it from this jig so I can flip it over. And there you can see one tack 2 tacks, and the third one. Ooh, I got a gap over here. I didn't catch that. That was a gouge from the notcher. Huh. Alright, well, I'll have to fill that as I go. Alright. Okay, I went ahead and I got my tacks all done, and so once I did all 4 corners, edges, I went ahead and started just welding. And here's the finished product. Not too bad. Some good spots, some not so good spots in the way of what it looks like, but not too bad. I haven't welded in a while. That right there I might go back and clean up, kind of a high spot. But what I wanted to show you is that by doing the 4 edges, that's still hot, so hopefully I won't melt it. If I take my angle finder and place it onto the tube and come down and push it up to the edge, "90 degrees. It's a straight tube." Yeah, sometimes you don't know how many times I've actually goofed that up, and I either had the tube off center so it was a little off, and that's why I double and triple check things now. But sometimes when I'm welding, I get a little distracted and have maybe a little bit of a too good of a thing going. My welds are just really looking good, so I keep going and it pulls the tube off. So even if you feel like you're in the groove, stop every quarter or so until you have a good even bead of weld on all 4 edges, 4 corners, and that will ensure that your tube stays perpendicular to the bottom bracket. Alright, let's move on to the next one. Okay, next on the agenda is the down tube. I prefer to do down tube and then top tube, so do whatever you think works best for you, but I'm just telling you the way I do it. Now I've loaded the seat tube and bottom bracket in, and now I've gone and loaded the top tube using a magnet to help hold in place, and it's the same process. I want to get a tack on the top and then a tack down at the bottom, and then turn around and come up and do the other side to hold the tube in place, and then I'll come back and do the tacks on the sides, keep it from twisting. Okay, and it's these that on the side, you don't want to over weld them more than the other side, because that's when you start to get some twisting going on. Okay, so be patient and just do a nice solid good tack on the forward edge, top and bottom, and then smaller tacks on the side, and let it freeze, and then come back and do quarters. All right, and that's when you get to start getting into it, feeling like you're a welder. And do the same thing at the other end. Don't do the whole thing, the top tube at the head tube area, and finish it. Jump back and forth, quarters at a time, letting one end cool, and then work the other end while that's happening, and that helps keep the whole frame stable, in thermally stable. Okay, so you go do that. I'll go and tack these, and I'll show you what it looks like when I have it tacked. And when you go from the bench back to your jig or whatever, make sure you relocate your ground, otherwise you'll find out real quickly that you're not grounded. It's like peeing on a fence in some ways, or it can be. Oh, well, come back here. I gotta tighten that up, I guess. And you do want to make sure that you have post-gas flow. I use about 5 seconds, because you want the weld pool to freeze and stop oxidizing before your gas runs out. And if you can help it, keep the tip of your welding rod in there too. If it turns brown and everything, it's oxidized, and you want to cut that off. Okay. So you want to remember, like I'm extending the tungsten in order to get into that crux right there, and I'll probably have to increase the argon flow too temporarily. Just remember to turn your argon down and push your tungsten back in when you don't need it to have it that far out. So I went ahead and turned it up to about 25 CFI, and let's see what happens here. Let's see if I can get this going this time. Actually, I think I'm going to do the bottom first. I'll pull it down. I'm going to push that tungsten back in and get that. And there we go. Tacked. Okay, you tell me, what do you think of my welds there? Not too bad. This is the head tube, down tube, interface. Come on, focus. It doesn't want to focus. There we go. Not too bad. I have to do a little bit on the underside down here. And then I need to come over onto the other side, the other end, and finish that. But you can see, before I finished anything, I got some good quarter welds. I gotta clean that up a little bit, but not too bad. And true to form for me, I leaned up against my frame when I was readjusting it, and I burned my underarm. It's hurt like a banshee. So just remember, be careful of what you grab, lean up against, and spit on. You never know, it might kick back on you. Just joking. So I'm going to take a break, and I'll be back, and we'll talk some more about fitting up the top tube. Okay, after my little break, I'm coming back, and now I am putting the top tube on. I've checked it, I've cleaned it, and now I'm just going to tack them in place by doing a tack at the top, and then a tack on the bottom back here, tack top, top, bottom, side, 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 side. I know I cheated. I didn't show you my actual welding, but here's the finished main triangle. I got it all welded up, and to let you know, you don't need to have everything done brilliantly. It's a learning process. I have some really nice welds, like right in there. It's hard to get it focused. Right in there, it's not too bad. And then I have some rough spots. So don't fret, don't frown. I was surprised how strong the frame is, even when you may have some kind of ugly welds. As long as you have good penetration, you're going to be good. Now, something to look for, as an example, is good penetration. So if you look inside your tubes, you can see a discoloration and a kind of like a scar. And that's an indication. You can see the scars going around down there. That's kind of an indication of good penetration. It's sinking into the base metal really well. And so as long as you're doing that, your frame should be pretty damn good. I've done some that were iffy when I first started. They didn't look all that hot. They're really kind of cold looking welds. They look like worms, sort of. But I tried breaking them, and I passed the test at the class, and I wasn't pleased with the welds, but man, they held. So, as long as you have good penetration and or a lot of material added, you're okay. So don't fret, and you'll get better the more you do the welding, right? So if you kept up, you are now done with your main triangle, and we can now move on to working on the chainstay and seat stays. So hang in there, and I'll be back soon with the follow-on and maybe the last video in the series. All right, hang in there.